Today, we're going to break down how a pretty small open-source project for developers turned into a real business, pulling in over $9,000 every single month. Let's dive right into the playbook.
So, let me ask you a question, especially if you're a developer or a builder. Do you actually think you need some huge, earth-shattering idea to make real money on the internet?
Because what if I told you that a tiny, super specific tool built for a really niche audience could actually generate some serious recurring revenue? I'm talking about this much.
That's right, almost $9,400. And that's not a one-time thing. That's their monthly recurring revenue. This project, ChartDB, is living proof that you can win big by starting small and staying focused.
And just look at the stats behind that number. In only 16 months, we're talking 250,000 users and 21,000 stars on GitHub. Now that is not an accident. It's the result of a really, really smart strategy.
So how'd they do it? Well, the first big lesson here is that the idea that worked wasn't the first idea they had. It all started with a really important pivot.
See, their first concept was this AI database client, but it was a huge ask for users, what we call a high-friction product. You had to hand over your sensitive database info, install software, and basically trust them from the get-go. The pivot was to ChartDB, a simple visualization tool. No install needed, no credentials, it just worked, giving you an instant wow moment by turning your database schema into a cool, interactive chart.
And this just perfectly captures the whole idea. The co-founder, Jonathan Fishner, says it himself. Getting rid of those barriers was the absolute key to getting developers hooked right from day one.
Now, this success wasn't just a lucky break. It actually followed a really clear, repeatable framework that any one of us can learn from. So let's break down this 5-step playbook.
Okay, the playbook is pretty straightforward, but honestly, so powerful. First, solve your own problem. Second, design for the specific quirks and constraints of your audience. Third, launch with a wedge, just one high-impact feature. Fourth, let how people use your product decide how you make money. And finally, market your stuff where your ideal customers already hang out.
It all started with step 1. Jonathan and his team just wanted a better way to see their database relationships, an interactive ERD that wasn't a pain to use. They weren't guessing at what a market needed. They were living that need every day. And that's the point, right? When you are the user, you get the problem on a deep level, and you know what a good solution looks like.
Step 2 is all about really understanding your audience. Developers, they value control and they absolutely hate friction. So ChartDB was designed so you could host it yourself. There were no sign-up walls, no demos with sales reps, just a tool you could grab and try out immediately. Next up is the wedge. So instead of trying to build this massive all-in-one product, they focused on doing one thing incredibly well, creating a beautiful interactive chart from a database schema. That single feature was so unique and provided so much instant value that it got people talking and sharing it like crazy.
Now, making money wasn't part of the day one plan at all. ChartDB launched as a completely free tool. They just put it out there, and then they waited and watched. Pretty soon, users started asking for ways to collaborate with their teammates. That's when the light bulb went off. Supporting real-time collaboration is technically complex, so that became the perfect feature for a paid cloud plan. See, monetization was a direct response to a real user need, not some random guess.
And the final piece of the puzzle, distribution. The strategy here was beautifully simple. Go to the places where developers already are. No need to reinvent the marketing wheel.
So where is that? Well, a single show HN post on Hacker News just exploded, bringing in thousands of users on the very first day. GitHub, of course, became the home base for the whole open source community, and then these super niche subreddits like r/self-hosted gave them a direct line to their absolute perfect customer. The marketing felt natural because it was totally authentic to the community.
All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty. What does it actually cost to run a SaaS business like this? Let's look under the hood.
Here's a completely transparent look at their monthly bills. So AWS for hosting is the biggest chunk at $600. Then you've got Drata for SOC 2 compliance, which is a must-have if you want to sell to bigger companies. That's $500. And then you have these smaller costs for their AI assistant, some analytics, and the marketing website. It's a really lean stack, which just goes to show you you don't need a massive budget to get going.
So after we've looked at the strategy, the pivot, and the costs, what's the single most important lesson we can pull from this whole journey?
It really boils down to this incredibly powerful idea from Jonathan. Find that one thing your product does better than anyone else, and just focus on it, relentlessly. For ChartDB,
That one thing was making database visualization obvious and effortless. He said everything started to click when they just ignored all the other noise and doubled down on that.
So let's just pull it all together. Here's your playbook. Find ideas that have almost zero friction to get started with. Solve a pain point that you yourself actually have. Don't guess how to make money. Let your users tell you what's worth paying for. And most importantly, find your one core value and defend it with everything you've got.
This quote right here really just captures the whole spirit of it. It's about spotting that momentum, seeing what's getting people excited, and then pouring all of your energy right into that one thing.
And that kind of leaves us with one final question to think about for whatever you're working on. What is the single unique value in your project that's already showing some signs of life? And how can you start to double down on it like right now?